Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
Hello, all. Welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about attachment styles and also the two sources of information I got on attachment styles and tips for effective communication from the people that have the attachment style we all wish we had. All right, so the three attachment styles, and this refers to like your ability to form and hold relationships. The first one is anxious attachment style, and that's according to a book called Attached by Amir, Levine, and Rachel Heller. And they have titles after that, their names, but that's the basics. All right, so they call the first one anxious attachment style. And that is people are often preoccupied with their relationship and tend to worry about their partner's ability to love them back. The second one is avoidant, which is people that equate intimacy with a loss of independence and constantly try to minimize closeness. And then the third one is secure. And this is 50% of the population, according to this book. And they are people that feel comfortable with intimacy and are usually warm and loving. So that's what we're all striving for. So another author that talks about it is Katherine Woodward Thomas. Katherine Woodward Thomas, sorry. And she wrote the book Calling in the One, and also she has a clip that I'm going to add to this podcast, which is a 50-minute video where she talks about these attachment styles as well. And she refers to them as avoidant attachment, which is the same as the other, but insecure attachment style is what she calls the anxious. And then she doesn't really mention the ones that are secure. I guess she doesn't think there's enough of those around. I'm not sure. But, and then at the end, we'll talk about tips for effective communication. But right now, Carissa is joining me to talk about our attachment styles and what she thinks hers is maybe, or just kind of, we'll see how it goes. We'll have a dialogue about it. Welcome, Carissa.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. So what did you...
I don't know. I might have to have you give me a definition again on what those are.
Well, the way...
I was trying to figure out what I am.
Yeah. The way I see it is like anxious is like you could call it needy. Like you want the reassurance and the communication and from the person. I would say the guy, because I'm a woman. So the guys I've dated, like I can get needy where I'm wondering if they don't text you, you're like, where are they doing? They must not like me. And you kind of make up stories about why they're not contacting you. And you worry about it a lot. And avoidant is... you don't want to get too close. As soon as someone starts to get close, you're like start to feel suffocated and like you just need space and that kind of stuff. And then secure, by the way, is 50% of the population. So all those out in the singles scene are usually the avoidant and the anxious, of course, because the rest of those 50% are perfectly happy, find each other, and then they're happily ever after. And the rest of us are on all the dating sites. So... And we keep running into the ones that when you get needy, they pull away, and then the push-pull thing. And also there's also anxious avoidant types, the type that have the combo, which I think I am a bit of that. Because as soon as I do finally, yep, Chris is raising her hand too.
Not for sure.
Yeah, but it seems like, but yeah, because like as soon as you start to get close, then you're like, oh, wait. So I'm sure that's really helpful to be that as well. Okay, so the book Attached has obviously different sections in it, so I was just going to go through the basics. They call it the new science of adult attachment, and that's how it helps you to decode relationship behavior, and it also points out that dependency is not a bad word. And then part one is a relationship toolkit, deciphering attachment styles. They actually have a little quiz in there, so you can figure out which one you are. And then also helping you figure out what your partner's style is. And then, as I said earlier, there's 3 styles, which I kind of already mentioned. That's part 2. And then part 3 is when attachment styles clash. So, and they give lots of examples and real world examples of couples in the throes of the various style clashes. And then part 4, which is what we all would like to get, the secure way. Sharpening your relationship skills. Like I said, that'll be a little bit later on effective communication, getting the message across. and working things out, 5 secure principles for dealing with conflicts. We can go into those later. But any of those parts sound interesting, or you want to explore more, Carissa?
Yeah, I actually did a quick Google search, and I also saw that there's a test on another website, Psychology Today, about attachment styles. So I thought I am so sorry. That was not awesome. So I was just taking a quick look at that. It looks like it maybe just takes a few minutes. So based on what you were saying, I thought that might be a good spot for me to check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we can post that link, although Psychology Today is pretty easy, I guess. But if we need to post that link, we can do that as well. But yeah, so, I mean, so an example for me is I was dating one person, and he was not someone that communicated. Like, he would get lost in thought, lost in, lose track of time, just doing video games, whatever. And so he would, I just, for whatever reason, with him specifically, I always wanted communication, and that just wasn't his strong suit. So there's actually a chart in the book that shows the thinking of an anxious person and what they go through the longer it takes. Let me see if I can find the chart. But it's literally like the first 20 minutes, you're like wondering what he's doing. And then after a couple hours, you're like, oh my God, like, is he dead? Or the anxious person goes through like this whole trial and like this making up all these stories, and they get worse and worse as it goes. And I actually showed him the chart because he thought I was the only person that does this and like really wants communication. And so I showed him the chart, and he's like, it was literally like, see, once you get to this point, you think this, and then you think that. And he thought it was pretty strange, but not strange. He just thought, he just couldn't relate because he's just not like that. But I think he understood it when I could show that it wasn't just me.
Gotcha. So was he open to taking a look at his style, or was he not open to it? Or did he think you were trying to be a know-it-all when you showed him what he was doing?
No, he actually, I think it was very helpful, and he appreciated it. He tried for a while to, minimize my anxious style by contacting me as much as I wanted. And it eventually just, his style and my style just didn't mesh, and we didn't work out. And now I'm definitely more over that. Like, I don't have to get constant communication. It also helps if you date more than one person. So, you're not always worrying about the only person you're dating. I highly recommend it for anxious attachment style people to date more than one person.
Because you have a distraction.
Exactly. And you can focus all your attention, or you can divide your attention between several people. And then someone's always communicating with you, so you don't have to just worry about the one person. Of course, the one person you want to probably text or call the most. But that has worked for me to get over this anxious thing. And then, have you ever dated an avoidant or an anxious person, or what are you going to say?
Well, that's a good question. It's been a while, really, since I've dated, as we previously have talked about. But I was all about dating as many people as often as possible when I was in my 20s. So my style was that if they made it past 3 dates, then did they make it past 3 weeks? And then did they make it past 3 months? Which was very rare. Mm-hmm. So only 2 people made it past 3 months. And then I married one of them. Okay. So then, but that was great because I actually let my guard down enough to then, I guess, fall in love with that person. So that was a new one for me because I don't let my walls down easily.
Yeah, actually, now that you say that, like when I was much younger, the same thing. Like I would lose interest, even generally, pretty much right away. Like you said, like after a date, you're like, and then I was all into them, and then just suddenly I wasn't anymore. I'm like, yep, sorry. And I would tell them, just so you know, I might lose interest. So I don't know what to say, but it just happens. So it's interesting that it changes over the years. But yeah, and then of course, like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've not taken the test, but I definitely think I have. I don't know. I'm avoidant, so even right now, when I could pretend, I could start dating. I have tried starting dating, but there's a lot of things going on in my world, that I'm like, you know what, there's just too much emotional energy that needs to go into dating, and I'm out, and I don't want to, bring drama into another relationship, or bring another relationship in,
especially when they're demanding
at the moment.
If they're demanding your time and you're just not there or not feeling it, and it just feels like a burden to give that much time up, it sounds like.
Well, and dating is a struggle anyway, and takes a lot of energy, and now in my 50s, it's hard to find people in that kind of in an appropriate age range that don't have. I mean, we all have baggage at this point in our life. We've all been, it's not our first rodeo. And so we all have all of those things that have fed in from prior relationships, especially if you've been divorced. So you kind of have that in the back of your mind of, I don't know, is that what I want? Yeah. Do I want to spend the time helping them raise their young children?
Yeah, it's easier to see the deal breakers and red flags are much more evident, and you can like rule them out quicker. Or I mean, everyone's learned enough to what they do like and what they don't want, and so it can make it harder. I can see that too. So
well, and being an independent professional woman, it is a lot harder to, I think of the psychology of men as they want women to need them, and kind of show that. I have a difficult time showing that. And so one of my very first dates that I had with someone, it turned out it went from a date to being a business lunch. So it was it was very interesting, because we were both in similar industries, and then it turned into a business lunch, and then we connected on LinkedIn, and we didn't go out again.
And
we communicate as professionals. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, this book, like I said, it gives all the real world examples, so it's very helpful. And I read it all the way through, so I highly recommend it. And the biggest trap and the people that attract themselves, of course, to each other are the avoidant and anxious. Like those two go together, because for whatever reason, you're drawn to the person that kind of pulls away. And then the more you chase, the more like they turn into the volatile relationships out there. And especially if you're
I was definitely in one of those.
Yeah. And they can both work with a secure attachment person. But that's the trick, is finding those. And when you find them, they're so, in my experience, I've dated a couple, they're so great, and they know what they want, and they won't put up with the kinds of behaviors that can go with anxious and avoidant. Like, they don't play games. They just know what they want. And if they're into you, they date you. And if they see a feature, they'll pursue it. And they don't want to have to worry about, can you call it this time, or, call too soon, and all those.
Oh, I was like, I don't think I've ever, well, maybe I have dated one, but obviously that would have been 20 years ago. So I guess I would need to meet some of those people. And most of those people that I meet are already in relationships. So.
Yeah, true. Although I did date someone, like we went out like 3 or 4 times, and he was very much that attachment style. And I think it's just hard for those of us that aren't that attachment style to maintain until you're like ready for it, or healed the wounds, or whatever's going on.
Agree.
Yeah. But this book definitely,
agree. I think definitely we need to do, the work on ourselves and understand that, especially, when you tie in this with, I guess, potentially love language, which we will talk about in another episode. So, but I think doing the work, like you said, on yourself to figure all of this out and how to counter that behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. And then being able to, and that's what a lot of this book talks about, is being able to communicate your needs. Like, instead of just like biting someone's head off or not texting you, which was an example. Like, I was like, I literally thought you were dead. You didn't text me. And instead of saying that, like, oh, I really missed you, and I was hoping for a text and I didn't get one, so I was kind of sad, or I was looking forward to it. And they actually have examples of how to say it and how not to say it to be like more like a secure style. So definitely check that out. And it's pretty interesting. Like, this is how you could say it, and this is how you would normally say it as an anxious person. And of course, I cannot locate it at the moment, but there's all kinds of charts and
great
quizzes.
That there's text. Yeah. I like the text, if there's text examples. I mean, I do have that problem if someone doesn't text me back, or, from previous, or if they don't call, or, you hear something or about that person, and you're like, they didn't tell me they were doing that. And then you're like, okay, what were they doing? Are they cheating on me? And and then you have worst case scenario going through your head. Or,
yep.
They're late. They're dead in a ditch somewhere.
Yep.
So I can totally relate to that.
Yeah. And there's definitely
with communication being easier.
Yeah.
It's easy.
What you were just saying, like, there's what happened in the story. Like, what happened is I didn't get a text from him. And then the stories are like, okay, you go into all kinds of myriad things, like you were saying. So I did find one page, so I'll talk about this. It has the secure principles for making conflict work. And the 5 secure principles are for resolving conflict are: 1, you show basic concern for the other person's well-being. So that we could, like you said with the text, you could say, oh, like when you didn't contact me, I thought you were hurt or something. And so it's an actual concern for their well-being. 2nd is maintain focus on the problem at hand. Refrain from generalizing the conflict, which I think that's like standard, fighting rules is what they say you should do. Being willing to engage and effectively communicate feelings and needs, which they apparently is harder for the anxious style. They're so worried that you won't, they're so worried that they won't be liked by the person that they don't say what they're actually feeling or thinking. So they just kind of hide. And actually, and that's what this book talks about, is if you are anxious, just say like, oh, I'm feeling kind of insecure right now. I would love a hug or something. If you're at a certain stage, you might not want to do that first date, but after you're together for a little bit, just actually saying what you need and how you're feeling about stuff. Any thoughts on that?
Well, and I think on that note, I think a lot of men don't know and understand that non-sexual physical touch is very important to women.
Yes.
Regularly. So the key being non-sexual physical touch.
Yeah, especially if it's your love language.
There is time for both. Right. Well, and even children. I've had a conversation with my son, who's 20, about it. I'm like, you need to understand that, I know you don't feel that you need this, but women need this, non-sexual physical touch. Yeah. And I can tell, though, after I do give him, a hug or something like that, he definitely feels better, and is not quite as, I don't want to say volatile, but anxious or whatever, because those brain chemicals start kicking in.
Yeah, it's like a biological fact that we all need human touch. That's why people in solitary confinement and stuff like that just don't fare well. And I do, when we're on that topic-ish, insecure conflict strategies to avoid, so the opposite of the other part, which is getting sidetracked from the real problem. Go down a rabbit hole of stuff. We can all figure that out. Number 2, neglecting to effectively communicate your feelings and needs. So pretty much the reverse of the other. Reverting to personal attacks and destructiveness. This is where a lot of people, when you don't get that text after the 5th text you send, you're finally like, what the hell? You just get really mad and upset. And obviously it doesn't really work very well. And then reacting tit for tat to a partner's negativity with more negativity. Withdrawing. And then forgetting to focus on the other's well-being, which was a tip from the previous thing. So definitely things to avoid. And when you're anxious, that's pretty much, this is like tips for insecure strategies or insecure attachment styles.
Well, I am definitely an avoidance of closeness. So I'm definitely avoidant. I'm like 83%. Okay. So apparently,
we need to find
based
that.
On my past relationships, it's bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I will have to find the chapter on that section where we talk about the avoidance stuff, how to. So I did find some, like, here's one example of the effective communication. All right. So here's the situation in the book. He's very busy at work and you hardly get to see him. The ineffective communication would be call him every couple of hours, no matter to make sure you're on his mind. And the effective communication would be to tell him you miss him and are having a hard time adjusting to his new work schedule, even though you understand that it's temporary. So those are kind of the examples of, but once again, this is the anxious style. So let me try to find.
Oh yeah. And I do know that about myself, that I avoid getting close to people for sure.
Yeah, but obviously it helps to understand that part too. But I'm not.
Well, and the other thing I also know about myself on that is I don't show that I am very emotionally attached to someone. I have difficulty with that. And but I feel things very deeply.
But they would never
I don't show the emotion.
Yeah, I was going to say they would never know that or guess that. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like
the combo. But I want them to.
Yeah. But they don't, yeah. Because, I'm like the combo too. Like, people always say it's hard to read me, so I don't show it when I am, except for when I get the needy way, depending on the person. But I did find the avoidance stuff. So coaching session, 8 things you can start doing today to stop pushing love away. Should jot these down. Number 1, you learn to identify deactivating strategies. Don't act on impulse. When you're excited about someone, but then suddenly have a gut feeling that he or she is not right for you, stop and think, is this actually a deactivating strategy? And I'm sure that's discussed further in the book. And then second is de-emphasize self-reliance and focus on mutual support. When your partner feels he has a secure base to fall back on, then they actually get less needy. So just, and you can say like, oh, I need some space right now. And that's definitely something I've heard before. And I know now to accept it and grant it. Number 3 is find a secure partner, which is pretty obvious because they're not going to be the needy ones like chasing you around. And then number 4, be aware of your tendency to misinterpret behaviors. And they say negative views of your partner's behaviors and intentions infuse bad vibes into the relationship. Change this pattern. And then number 5, make a relationship gratitude list. Remind yourself on a daily basis that you tend to think negatively of your partner or date, and then just, be grateful. All right, number 6 is nix the phantom ex. When you find yourself idealizing that one special ex-partner, stop and acknowledge that he or she is not and never was a viable option. Otherwise, you would probably be together. I added that part from the book. And then number 7, forget about.
Okay.
Number 7, forget about the one. And they say we don't dispute the presence of soulmates in our world. On the contrary, we wholeheartedly believe in it, but it's not necessarily a relationship. It could be, just close friends or stuff like that. And I'm paraphrasing that part too, so definitely read the book if you want more on that. And then number 8, adopt the distraction strategy. As an avoidant, it's easier to get close to your partner if there's a distraction. Focusing on other things, taking a hike, going sailing, or preparing a meal together won't feel so, in my words again, so won't feel so smothering. So what did you think about those tips? Sound helpful?
Yeah, definitely helpful. I mean, some of the things I don't necessarily have a problem with adopting just a distraction technique.
Yeah.
I can do lots of things to distract myself.
Yeah.
As go to the museum or take a hike or yoga or something. So I don't have a problem with that one. But I did like the relationship gratitude list of, to help reinforce maybe comfort for yourself. I think that's an important thing. Like your gratitude should exceed your expectations. I think is a good I think, a good tie-in to that. But like, I've never really kind of bought into the one,
Yeah.
personally. So I don't put a lot
I
of
think,
emphasis on, oh, you're going to have an immediate connection and you're going to, oh my gosh, you're going to see him across the room. And,
yeah. Well, unfortunately,
so I've never really thought about that.
every romantic comedy out there, of course, shows that, and all the story, fairy tales growing up talks about that. So I say this in my stand-up too. All none of the ones on YouTube yet, but just the idea that all the women grow up with all those fairy tales and all those ideas, but the men and the boys are not growing up trying to be Prince Charming. So we're like setting up an entire generation
That's
for
true.
disappointment. Yeah, because it's ingrained in us to want that princess stuff, but they're not taught necessarily. Obviously some can be, but it's just not in their nature to be like, I want to be Prince Charming for every woman. I'm sure some would disagree. And if you do, be sure to email us at tamara@straightfromthesourcesmouth.co for any thoughts or ideas on any of this topic, actually, as well. And I just wanted to share, there was also a quiz in here and an exercise on, oh, never mind. This is communicating effectively. There's like literally different scripts of how you can start conversations and all the kind of stuff. So hopefully I have shared enough about this book that you are interested in the topic, or at least understanding like why things work out and don't work out, and ways to be effective. And then, like I said, go ahead.
The scripts would be nice. I mean, like if we can post a link maybe to that would be great.
Yeah, it's within the book. I would
be interested in that personally.
Okay, yeah. So I should have kept the page before I said that. But I was going to say, I can also, I mentioned posting the video of Katherine Woodward Thompson. Let me look at her name. That's so bad. I should get the full name. It is Katherine Woodward Thomas. She also wrote the Unconscious Coupling that Gwyneth Paltrow made famous when she got divorced, / unconsciously coupled from her ex-husband. But she also wrote that book too. But anyway, her video is really good on the different styles as well. And so, yes, I will look for the quiz, but I did find a thing.
So there's a video on YouTube about that?
It's a video. I cannot remember which. I have the clip. I don't remember what format it is. I think it's her own site, but I'll just put the link on there in the description of this episode, and you'll be able to find that link. But it's really helpful, and it's free. It was free if you signed up on an email. So once you start listening to these things, you get lots of emails, like we do about everything. But all right. Any parting words? Because I was going to, I can't find the scripts, but we will mention it in the description. And I just wanted to also say that a future episode that someone told me about this book. He's not sure if it's still in existence, but as a potential future episode, like we talked about the love languages, and there's a book, How to Satisfy a Woman Every Time and Keep Her Begging for More. Just FYI, it was like back like 30 something years ago. It was like a little pocket-sized book, so no telling if it's still around. But he was willing to talk about. I bought that
for my then husband.
Oh, did you really?
For my then husband.
Wow. Okay.
He did actually read it and did implement some things that sort of improved, but
awesome.
Then he didn't care anymore.
Okay. Well, at least he tried it in the beginning. He started, yes. Yeah. And actually this guy, like, we're going to have him on, and he is willing to talk about some of the stuff he implemented. He said he's done it ever since he read the book when he was 19 years old, and it works very well in his mind. I can see.
Straight from the men's mouth.
Yes. All right. Well, I thank you very much, Carissa, for joining. Hopefully this was not too rambling of a topic, and you get the gist of it, but 2 sources about attachment styles, and hopefully we can all emulate secure attachment styles. Oh, and it is based on a lot of like your upbringing too, and how, the attachment you had with your parents, it kind of correlates. So I guess I should have said that in the beginning.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you very much. Awesome. And tune in next time and subscribe if you enjoyed this. We'll have lots of different topics. All right. Thank you.
Click below.
Yes.
Frank Talk, sex and dating educates.